An important concept you need to know when dealing with fixed-sized elements is that sometimes overflow may happen. So we might have a container with a fixed size, and we might have too much content inside this container. So the container cannot fit the entire content. That is when overflow happens. Just like when you have a glass of water and you pour too much water in it. So let's create a div with the class of box. Now, let's define a rule for our box and give it a border of 3 pixels, solid gold, a width of 150 pixels, and a height of 150 pixels as well. Now, back to our markup. Let's add a long paragraph here. Let's say a paragraph with 20 words. So, in this case, we don't have overflow because the box is big enough to fit the entire content. But what if we add a longer paragraph, a paragraph with 50 words? See, this is overflow in action. Now we can use the overflow property to control how overflow should behave. So back to our box, if we set the overflow property to, look, the default value is visible, and that is why we see the overflow. But if we set it to hidden, the extra content will be hidden. So here's what we get. Another possible value is scroll. When we use this, we see 2 scroll bars, a horizontal and a vertical scroll bar. Now these scroll bars are not shown in the recent versions of macOS. They only appear when I start scrolling, okay? But on Windows, I believe we should see both scroll bars. Now these scroll bars are pretty ugly, so we don't want to show them all the time. We want to show them only if there is extra content. So we can set the overflow property to auto. With this, the scroll bars will only appear if overflow happens, okay? Now, one thing you need to know here is that this overflow property is a shorthand for 2 properties, overflow X and overflow Y. If we supply a single value, this value will be used for both directions, horizontal and vertical. But sometimes we want to have more control over overflow in different directions. For example, for the horizontal axis, we may want to hide the overflow, so use hidden here. And for the vertical axis, we may want to show scroll bars only if there's extra content. There is no right or wrong here. The values you use really depends on the kind of layout you're going to build. So don't get hung up on these values. All I want you to take away from this lesson is that if you have a fixed size container and there's too much content inside that container, overflow will happen. And we use the overflow property to determine if you want to show the extra content or hide them or show the scroll bars or not. This is all about overflowing.